Right, so now I'm going to prepare the skin that I've printed. I've peeled it off the carrier sheet and now I'm going to trim it to the size that I want. It's a good idea to use a really sharp fresh blade on your knife so that you don't actually tear the skin, and score it a little bit several times to get a cut rather than, you know, one big teary piece. Right. Edges are all peeled away and you can see that it's trimmed. Now I have my wooden canvas here already. This is actually going to be slightly larger than the canvas, but that's pretty much how I want it, so that I've got room for trimming on the edges and a little room for error. So next I'm going to glue that down and see how it goes. So I'm going to use Golden's Gel Matte Medium, and I'm going to put that on to my work surface on the board. Get a big, fat, juicy coating of it. Make sure you get right to the edges, otherwise when you stick your thing on you're going to have to come back and redo the edges. You want the coating to be fairly thick, not too goopy, otherwise it will squish out when you put the thing on. We'll just keep applying the gel until the whole of the base is covered. Make sure those corners are covered well. Then we'll get the sheet of stuff, match it up to the corners. You'll have some flexibility with movement of the piece while the gel's still moist. Now you can turn around and say, well, why don't you just print this onto a straight old piece of paper and glue it on? But this has a beautiful textured feel to it. It's got a lot of depth and character in it, which is something that you can't achieve when you're just printing the picture onto a piece of paper and then gluing it on. Then we get the trusty brayer and work the image down onto the wood surface. Again, making sure that it's nicely adhered around the edges and the corners. And then just I'm going to let that dry. And you can see there's some overhang and overlap. We'll actually come back and trim that when it's dry. So now we're going to come along with a sharp knife and trim the edges. I've put a piece of wax paper down on my work surface just to protect the image, and as before it's better to take several swipes with the knife so that you get a good clean cut rather than trying to cut it all in one fell swoop. And you just need to be a little careful and patient while you're doing this. It's one of those things that if you hurry the last step, you might just ruin all the time and effort that you've put into the project so far. And angling your blade in gently to the edge, make sure that you get a nice clean cut. And so if the piece doesn't cut, don't pull it. Just come back and cut it again. And slowly and gently does it. Right. Okay, now you can see you've got a nice finish on all the edges. Nice. There. Now what we're going to do this piece next is we're actually going to spray a fixative on it, and then we're going to spray seal it, and then I'm going to decide what I'm going to do with the edges. So that's our piece. Oops. So far.